free-flowing conversation.
Absolutely a free-flowing conversation. You heard Danny and I with just a little bit of free-form chat just before we got started here. Welcome back. This is Jeff, and yes, I'm still without Jamie, still in full wedding preparations. The wedding is Thursday, and I know that you're listening to this right now on Saturday, so it was Thursday. And I'm sure it was a beautiful event, but it actually hasn't happened yet when we're recording this, so I have no idea. It may blow completely up.
It brought tears to my eyes. It was a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is a beautiful thing. Well, welcome back, fellow Streakers. Really excited to have Danny back with me and talking about professional streaks. And he is currently, if you missed the first one, Danny is a PhD student. He's also a systems engineer working for the Air Force. He and I have been talking a little bit about the professional streaks that he's had. As we were discussing in the last one, talking about why he chose the streak that he did, which was to read something from a professional journal.
Something related to systems engineering every day.
Every day. Yeah. He's been doing that. And then also talking about streaks that he is thinking about setting. And then we left off with a little bit about one that he had broken and why. And we were moving into talking about Laughably Simple. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned that once you kind of got past even a few days, 2 or 3 or 4 days, you started to see the value of it. And typically, there's people who I think see the value early, but then there's others who it takes quite a long time. Yeah. So I have 2 questions for you. One, how come you saw, and probably I know the answer to this, but I'm curious, how come you saw it early? And then what recommendation would you give to those that are looking at it and saying, really, does this really make a difference?
Well, I think I saw it early because I chose streaks that were really aligned with what I wanted to become, with things that I had struggled with for a long time.
Yeah.
And not just, hey, this would be a cool thing to do, but this is who I want to be. This is what I want to become. And this is one specific thing that I can do on a daily basis to help get me there.
Yeah.
So because there are things that I had tried to do in the past and that I thought about a long time that would be important, it wasn't something I came up with on a whim. I think that once I could see, hey, I've struggled with this for a long time, but all of a sudden, I've done it 7 days in a row. I've done it 14 days in a row. I've done it 30 days in a row now with something that for years and years and years I've struggled with. So I think that was a big thing for me because these were not arbitrary streaks, right? Like if you just had a streak to, tap your head once every day, like
why?
Okay, yeah, right. That's stupid. But these are things that I deeply care about, and I see the contribution that they can make to who I want to be, and because of that, just seeing those little pieces of it every day, it energized me and got me excited.
You have brought up several times, and we talked about it last time as well, as far as who you want to be. Part of what really broke streaking out, as far as Jamie and I were having the journey, was when we came up with and thought, are we streaking for streaking's sake, or are we streaking because we want to become someone? And identifying the B statement of who I want to be drives what you were saying as far as what you do to become that person and what you do on a consistent basis. So the recommendation then that I hear you saying is, if you're having a difficult time sticking with this or whatever it is, who do you want to be? Identify that. Is that right? Or
absolutely, yeah. I have found that if a streak, or really anything I want to do in my life, but in the context of streaking, if it's not aligned with who I really want to be, it's not worth doing, right? Yeah. Like there are not enough hours in the day. There's not enough mental capacity to do everything.
Right.
So if it's not aligned with what I want to be, it's not worth my time. It's not worth putting the effort in.
Right. Go ahead.
But that also, the streaks help because there's lots of things that aren't aligned with who I want to be that compete for my time and attention.
Yeah.
Right. So if at the end of the day, I've got a list of 5 streaks that I still have to finish that day, or I can just veg out and watch TV, like I'm going to do my streaks because of the streak's sake.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah. And so it doesn't help me get the things done that contribute. It helps me eliminate some of the garbage in my life that's crowding out those important things and preventing me from getting to where I want to be.
So I have a question for you. And this is one, we haven't talked about it. It's been something Jamie and I have been tossing around, but I'm curious as to your first thoughts that come off. How is a list of streaks different than a to-do list? Okay, so you think about that, because you could look at both of them and say they're both to-do lists.
Yeah.
But I think they're fundamentally different.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, as
All
you
right,
hear
well,
that.
I'm glad I'm on the spot here.
Yeah, you're on the spot. So this is fresh. We haven't talked about
Yeah.
it, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolutely first out of the box.
This is
fresh
legitimately
paint.
fresh. So
Yeah.
I see two fundamental differences. The first is a to-do list can be done whenever, right? Like there's no compelling reason to get my to-do list. Like I can say all day long, hey, this is a to-do list I want to do today, but it's isolated to that day. And if I don't get that to-do list today done, or if I don't get it done today, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
so there's nothing that's driving me to do that to-do list. Where with a streak, you know what? I've got things that have to be done today because it ties to what I did yesterday. And it's tied to what I'm going to do tomorrow. It's a chain, right? And that's what ties it together. And that's what gives it strength. Whereas a to-do list, it's like, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow.
I'll do it tomorrow. Okay, so that's number
Yeah,
one.
that's number one. The second thing, and we talked about it a lot in the last podcast, and we've touched about it briefly here. Lots of times my to-do list will have things that are really hard to do, right? That aren't broken down really well. And I might have time to do that in one sitting. That might take me 3 or 4 sittings to do.
Yeah.
And some of them might scare me, right? Like I have to figure out how to do, like my big to-do list lately has been things around the house and finishing the basement.
Right.
So one of my to-do lists will be like, oh, I got to figure out how I want to do this tile work. Because I'm not a tiler. I'm just doing it myself. It takes, so I get scared of it.
Now, I'd be curious to see the system draw up of actually laying the tile from an engineer. I mean,
We could do it. We could pull up my modeling tools and we could do it. But there's a lot of mental energy going into how am I going to do this?
Right.
Where a streak, there's no mental energy, right? Because it's been, if we're doing it right, it's laughably simple. I can do that on my worst day. I can sit down and I can knock out my list of streaks at a minimum.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I may do a whole lot more because I sit down and do it. But at a minimum, I know I can sit down and do that stuff. No problem. And so it doesn't scare me like my to-do list always scares me.
As far as what it is.
And I don't know. I feel like I keep saying scared a lot in these last 2 podcasts. Maybe I'm living too much in fear, but that's maybe a subject for the psychology podcast.
Yeah, that may be for the. I think it's a healthy fear. It's a realization that when you decide to do it, you are going to do it, and that's healthy. I don't think it's an unhealthy fear where you're scared to do it. It's just that I know when I commit to this, because of the streaking methodology, because of the power of a streak, and because of the chain that brings it together, I'm going to do it. One of the thoughts that I had right where you're talking, again, this is fresh off the. One of the things that, as you were talking, I was thinking of the to-do list as tasks that need to be done. I got to get this task done. I got to get this task done. And once that task is done, it's done.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. You're not going to repaint this office every week or every month. Now, you may do it in a few years, you change up the color or whatever. But once you've painted the office, that task is complete. Therefore, a to-do list is a task list of things that may or may not be repeated.
Yeah.
So with that on my mind, I thought, so then what the streak is, or streaks, it's really not a to-do list or a task list. You ready for this one? It's a to-be list.
That's exactly
Were
what was
you
in
right
my
there?
head. Yeah, I was right there. Yeah.
Because it's who I want to be. And in order to become that person, I've got a list of things. You have 9 right now, a list of 9 things that I'm going to do on a consistent basis without fail, because I want to become that person.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to get too philosophical,
Go ahead.
but I
Let's
guess a
philosophical it up.
PhD is a doctor of philosophy, right? So
Right.
maybe I'm a little bit qualified. But yeah, we can all think, I want to be this person. We can think, this is what I want to do with my life. When we do that, right? It's called dreaming, right? Like, this is what I want to be.
Yes.
But thoughts don't make you who you are, right? Like, it's fundamentally what you do is what shapes who you are.
Yeah.
So if you really want to be someone, thinking about it isn't enough. You need to do something. And that's what our streak is. It's doing something every day to get to be where I want to come. It takes us out of dreaming to doing. And quite frankly, I think that's a struggle that a lot of us have.
Yeah.
We've got big dreams, huge dreams, good dreams, right? They're not crazy, they're not stupid, they're good things. But the thing that's keeping us from getting there is just the doing.
Yeah.
To steal a quote from one of my favorite people, our do it switch gets stuck in the later position.
Our do it switch gets stuck in the later position. Yeah. We'll do it later.
Yeah. Come on, we got to get that do it switch now. And that's exactly what streaking is, right?
Right.
Like, it gives you that personal accountability to do it today.
Yeah.
Even if it's not your grand dreams of everything you want to do, there is something that I can do today. And so I'm going to do it today. And I'm going to do it every day, or whatever you've committed to yourself, every week, every month. But I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. And that mental energy is not required anymore to make the decision of if you're going to do it or not. That mental energy has already been expended.
Yeah.
You can focus your energy on actually like becoming who you want to be instead of just dreaming.
Instead of dreaming about it. So as a doctor, or soon to be doctor of philosophy, one of the things that I have appreciated about streaking is in the realm of behavioral science. I look at the tools that an individual has to become who they want to be. Mm-hmm. And I see 4 tools in the tool belt. One of the tools that people will use, and I believe overuse, is habit. Uh-huh. Now, I will say it right here, and I've said it several times, habits are a hoax when it comes to growth and development. Now, habits are useful when I need to do something like tie my shoe or cross my arms or maybe get home from work.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to spend a lot of mental energy on that, and it's something that's going to be automatic and go forward. But habits are absolutely not the thing when it comes to growth and to becoming who I want to be, because they imply automatic behavior. Mm-hmm. And I don't think growing is something that is an automatic behavior.
Well, and also you can't just wake up tomorrow and say, I want this good habit.
Right.
It just doesn't happen.
Pluck it out of the air. There it is. There's my good habit.
Yep.
It's not going to happen. So what I wanted to ask you about is, you had mentioned, there's a lot of things I've wanted to do in my life or should be doing in order to become who I want to be, and had tried before this. Had you tried the habit route? Had you thought about habits? Talk to us a little bit about that. I don't know if you had or not.
Well, I don't know about habits, but there's times where I tell myself, okay, from today on, I'm waking up this much earlier, right?
Right.
So because none of us have enough time. And I'm like, if I just wake up earlier, I'll have more time, I'll accomplish more. And that would be a habit, right? Like what time we get up. But that's not laughably simple. Like, I couldn't do it, right? At the end of the day, you're
just frustrated.
Yeah. And then you start to look down on yourself. It's like, what's wrong with me? I'm just not, I guess I see all these other people that are doing great things and they're just so much better than me. And you start to have negative self-talk because for some reason you can't just make this habit appear in your life.
That is so, I stood in the wrong line in heaven.
Yeah.
Someone else, they were in the right line in heaven and I was in the wrong line, and I didn't get the habit gene.
Yeah.
And I think, so to your point, I believe that the negative self-talk does start to come in because I'm not doing the thing consistently. Mm-hmm. But what I did is, before streaking, is I set myself up for failure. I really did.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because it was too hard, it was too big, too bold, too beautiful. It wasn't simple, laughably simple. It wasn't something that I was keeping a record of. It wasn't something that I created a community around. None of those things.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
100% agree with that.
So that leads us to where I wanted to go next, which is, you mentioned that about half your streaks are professional. We talked about one of your streaks, which is and one that you're considering. Other streaks that you have in the professional realm, what are a couple of other ones that you have?
So where half of mine are like family and half of them are professional. Other ones, I don't have any other professional streaks. They're like physical streaks.
Okay,
right?
So give us a couple of the physical ones.
So like, run a mile every day, run or walk a mile every day.
Okay.
Do 1 push-up every day.
Got to do at least one.
And this one's interesting is step on the scale. every day.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
That's hard for a lot of people.
I know. And, you know, I've tracked my weight. I've got a Wi-Fi scale, so it syncs. And
Yeah.
I've tracked my weight for 4 years now. And you can see the times that my weight was going up, I didn't weigh myself.
Oh, really?
And the time that it's coming down is when I'm weighing myself. So
Yeah.
finally, this one I started about the September-ish time frame as well. I'm like, you know what? I can see, like, the data is there. I'm an engineer. I like data. The data is there. There's a direct correlation between how many times I weigh myself
Yeah.
and whether I'm gaining weight or losing weight. So I'm going to step on the scale every day, you know, and
No matter what,
and just see what it is.
Just do it. And it is,
Yeah.
I mean, typically that's laughably simple.
Yeah.
Now, dependency, what about if you're traveling or whatever
So,
it is? Yeah.
you know, this is why I was scared to bring this one up with you, because it may not fall, you know, strictly into your definition.
Okay.
But my streak reads, weigh myself every day that I am at home.
Oh, okay.
So because
That works.
there are some places I can take a scale with me, but there are some places where if I'm backpacking, I'm just straight up not going to have a scale. But I think about it
Yeah.
every single day. Like when I don't weigh myself, I'm thinking about it. I didn't
Right.
weigh myself.
Right.
And so I'm, yeah.
You know what? You know what's interesting? So this has been a tough one because we actually considered this in the streaking methodology and philosophy it's what I call and the best way to say it, and it's going to sound odd, but it's the non-consecutive streak. Okay. And here's what I mean by it. So Cal Ripken Jr., one of my favorite streaker of all time, 2,632 games played in a row, Major League
Yeah.
Baseball in a row. Well, there's a full winter where you're not playing baseball.
Yeah.
And so his streak still lived, even though it wasn't daily, weekly, or monthly. But it was, and it's not that it's non-consecutive, it's consecutive. I guess I should say it's the consecutive streak,
Yeah.
but it doesn't fall within the parameters of daily, weekly, or
Yeah,
monthly.
for an engineer, we would call that aperiodic.
Okay.
So periodic is it happens on a set cadence. Aperiodic, it happens when there's the opportunity for it to happen.
Okay.
So like for my streak of, for my professional streak of writing down my highest priority thing for the day,
Yeah.
that isn't a weekly streak. It's not even a daily streak. I keep that one separately just in my work notebook.
Okay.
Because if I take vacation, it's not
You're not at
applicable.
work, right.
Yeah. But every day that I'm at work, I will do it.
So an aperiodic streak, I like this. So with an aperiodic streak, it is something, because I had this question from another streaker, and this is a shout out to Rick out there. I'm glad I'm talking to a systems engineer who can give us a little bit more definition. The question for us then is, and what we want to tackle in the app, and by the way, if you have not downloaded the streaking app, do it. It's phenomenal. It gives you a real good opportunity. Right now, we don't address aperiodic streaks in the app, but we want to. And that is one of the things now that we have a name for it, right? The definition, or what is it? The beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is to look at it and say, how can you track an aperiodic streak? Like what you said, every time you're at home, you weigh yourself. That means that, you know, you can check it off. Now, currently, if you're in the app, basically what you do is the days that you weren't at home, you would just click those as complete because the streak still lives.
Yeah.
And so I just click those off. But if you're really, and this is what I see, if you want to be true to being a streak,
That this is how many times I actually did it.
yes,
Did
exactly.
something.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're not going to click that off.
Yeah.
So that's the aperiodic streak. We're going to have to look at that in the app
Yeah.
and see how we can address that.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on that.
Okay.
We'll talk offline on that.
I thought you might,
Yeah.
because there's probably a couple of different ways we can handle it. So as we come to the close of the second podcast, just if you're talking to someone and you know somehow streaking comes up, how do you counsel or talk to or share with someone that you ought to give this a try?
You know, we've talked about it a lot already in this particular podcast, but it is all about like, hey, you don't have to continue to be frustrated, because lots of times it'll come up in the context of, I know I should be doing this, but I'm just not. You know, hey, I want to do this, and I'm just not. And it comes up because we're beating ourselves up, you know, over those things that we want to be, and we're not. And so I bring it up in the context. It's like, hey, you know what? You're not going to be perfect every day in everything, right? But you can be perfect in some small thing every day. So why not start there and start building that credibility with yourself and replace that negative self-talk of, well, I didn't solve world hunger again today, to be like, you know what? I did something, you know? I donated $1. I did something so that at the end of the day, you can go to bed happy.
Yeah.
And that's something when I'm talking with my friends and associates of, you know, wondering, am I good enough? And my answer,
because you work with a lot of brilliant people.
I do.
I mean, you have probably PhD people that you work with, as well as masters and all kinds of great engineers.
Yeah, really, really bright people. And it comes down to like, hey, at the end of the day, can you say I was happy with my day?
Yeah.
And if not, what's one little thing that could have changed that?
Yeah.
And let's start stringing some of these little things together that turns around our feeling when we turn the light off at night, you know, and when we close our eyes, and when the light turns on in the day, and how we're going to attack our day. It's like, well, shoot, I've got world hunger on my plate today. I don't think I'm going to get to that. But what can I do, you know, that's on that trajectory along? And going back to the engineering thing, it's much more about the derivative than the position. It's where we're going, you know, is it positive or is it negative? And honestly, there's maybe days that it's negative, but then that's where we get to the second derivative, right? Are we concave up? No, I don't want to get too much into that.
We were going into it. I love it.
But you know, where are we going matters a whole lot more than where we're at today. You know, and that's how I talk to people about streaking. I'm like, streaking is about getting you headed in the right direction. Where you're at today, totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know, where you're going to be tomorrow, and those streaks that you tie together really start to chart a trajectory up to where we actually want to be.
Danny, this has been absolutely fascinating. I could go on a full nother podcast, but you have to go back to studying.
Yeah. Got to hit the books.
And I got to continue on my consulting path. Yeah. Thank you so much. Just one little thing. You are a family man as well. You've got 5 children.
Correct.
And he's phenomenal at it. Your kids streak?
Yes. My 4-year-old, he'll be 5 on Sunday, is one that always reminds us of our family streak to when we sit down for dinner every day. Those who are there, and then we put that caveat, those who are there for dinner will say something that they love or appreciate about someone else in the family.
Wow, I'll bet that's changed your household.
Every day, yeah, because our B statement for that was we wanted to be a family that loves and appreciates each other. And so it's our 5-year-old. As soon as we say amen for, you know, blessing the food, he's like, streak. And we take that moment right then to tell each other how much we love and appreciate each other.
That right there was the price of admission, ladies and gentlemen. Fellow streakers, just take this one to the bank. If you had a chance to listen to this, listen again. It's totally worth it. Danny, thank you so much for your time and energy in this. My pleasure. Until we talk again, fellow streakers, give us an email if you'd like to hear something or ask a question at Jeffrey, Jeffrey, at streakingmastery.com, or Jamie, Jami, and I promise she will return at some point, Jami at streakingmastery.com. Until then, keep streaking.
It's the small and simple things that make you grow into what you're hoping. You're in a hurry, don't even worry. It's too simple not to do. It's the little things that